He walked into the courtroom smiling like he'd already won the case. Aaron Hernandez, NFL superstar, millionaire, accused killer, looked like a man who had nothing to lose. He believed his fame and money would overrun justice. But months after his trial ended, he made a choice in his prison cell that left everyone asking the same question. What was he really running from? Before we go further, hit that subscribe button if you believe no amount of fame should put someone above the law. Because what happened next will make you question if Aaron ever truly paid the price. Aaron Hernandez wasn't just any football player. He was a New England Patriots tight end with a $40 million contract, a Pro Bowl future, and a Super Bowl appearance under his belt. The kid from Bristol, Connecticut had made it big. But by June 2013, his name wasn't tied to touchdowns anymore. It was tied to a murder investigation that would destroy everything he built. To understand how Aaron Hernandez ended up in that courtroom, you have to go back to Bristol, Connecticut. He was born on November 6, 1989, into a home that looked normal from the outside but was broken on the inside. His father, Dennis, was a tough guy who believed discipline meant strict control. The family went through a divorce, remarried, filed for bankruptcy in 1999, and never found stability. But Aaron worshipped his father anyway. That all came crashing down in January 2006, when Dennis died from complications after a routine hernia surgery. Aaron was only 16 years old. The loss destroyed him. Then things got worse. Aaron found out his mother, Terry, was having an affair with Jeff Cummings, the husband of Aaron's own cousin. The betrayal cut deep. Aaron moved out and started hanging around people who would later drag him into a life he couldn't escape. What most people didn't know was that Aaron had been carrying trauma for years. He also struggled with undiagnosed ADHD, which made school harder than it needed to be. Aaron kept all of this locked inside. On the field, though, he was unstoppable. At Bristol Central High School, he became Connecticut's Gatorade Football Player of the Year, racking up 67 catches for 1,807 yards and 24 touchdowns. Every major college wanted him. He chose the University of Florida, where he won the John Mackey Award as the nation's best tight end and helped his team win a BCS national championship in 2009. In 2010, the New England Patriots drafted him in the 4th round. His talent should have made him a first-rounder, but teams were nervous. He had failed drug tests, gotten into a bar fight, and had a reputation for being immature. Still, the Patriots took a chance. By 2012, Aaron had signed a 5-year, $40 million extension. He and Rob Gronkowski became one of the most dangerous tight end duos in NFL history. But off the field, Aaron was falling apart. He kept weapons close and trusted almost no one. He was paranoid, convinced people were watching him or setting him up. His old life in Bristol kept pulling him back, and he couldn't let it go. Now. Odin Lloyd wasn't a household name. He was a 27-year-old semi-pro linebacker for the Boston Bandits, grinding it out in a league that didn't pay much but kept his football dream alive. Born in St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands and raised in Boston's Dorchester neighborhood, Odin was known as a hard worker who kept to himself. He was the oldest child and only son of Ursula Ward, a mother who adored him. Odin's connection to Aaron Hernandez came through his girlfriend, Shania Jenkins. Shania was the sister of Aaron's fiancée, Shayanna. The two couples hung out together, went to clubs, smoked weed, and kept things casual. But in June 2013, something shifted. Prosecutors later said Aaron started getting paranoid about Odin. Maybe Odin had talked to the wrong people. Maybe Aaron thought he couldn't be trusted. Whatever it was, Aaron made a decision. On the night of June 16th, Aaron texted two of his friends from Boston, Ernest Wallace and Carlos Ortiz. The message was simple but chilling. You can't trust anyone anymore. The next morning, just after 2 a.m., Odin got into a silver rental car with Aaron, Wallace, and Ortiz. Before they drove off, Odin sent a text to his sister. It read, "Did you see who I am with? NFL. Just so you know." That was the last time anyone heard from him. Hours later, a jogger found Odin's body in an industrial park less than a mile from Aaron's home in North Attleboro, Massachusetts. He had been shot multiple times. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community and the NFL. Police immediately started connecting the dots. Surveillance footage from Aaron's own home security system showed him leaving with a gun and returning without Odin. Text messages between the two were recovered. DNA from a piece of chewed gum was found on a shell casing at the scene. It matched Aaron's. Shoe prints at the site matched his sneakers. The rental car was registered in his name. Aaron knew he was in trouble. He destroyed his home security system, smashed his cell phone, and hired a cleaning crew to scrub his house the same day Odin's body was found. But it was too late. On June 26, 2013, police arrested Aaron Hernandez at his home in front of rolling television cameras. The New England Patriots released him within hours. His career was over. For Ursula Ward, the pain was just beginning. She would later tell reporters, "I lost my best friend. I lost my son. I lost the love of my life." Her fight for justice would become a voice for every mother who had lost a child to violence. When Aaron Hernandez showed up for his murder trial in January 2015, he didn't act like a man fighting for his life. He smiled. He leaned back in his chair. He looked relaxed, almost amused, like the whole thing was a game he knew he'd win. To anyone watching, Aaron looked fearless, but the people closest to him knew the truth. He was terrified. The prosecution laid out their case piece by piece. They showed the jury surveillance footage from Aaron's home security cameras. The video captured him leaving his house with a gun in his hand on the night Odin Lloyd was killed. They presented phone records showing texts between Aaron and Odin just hours before the murder. They showed the jury Aaron's rental car, the same one spotted at the crime scene. And then came the DNA evidence. A piece of gum Aaron had chewed was found on a shell casing where Odin's body was discovered. The evidence was overwhelming. Aaron's defense team fought back. They argued that the media had already convicted him before the trial even started. They painted him as a dedicated father to his young daughter, Avielle, and a loyal fiancé to Shayana. They suggested Aaron had been there that night but wasn't the one who pulled the trigger. Maybe he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Maybe his friends set him up. But as the trial went on, cracks started to show. Aaron's smile faded during certain moments. When witnesses testified about Odin's final hours, his jaw tightened. When prosecutors displayed photos of Odin's body, Aaron looked away. Friends who visited him in jail later revealed that Aaron had confided in them. He told them he couldn't handle prison. He said the thought of spending his life locked up was unbearable. The confidence everyone saw in court was just a mask covering pure fear. On April 15, 2015, the jury came back with their verdict. Guilty, first-degree murder. The courtroom went silent. Aaron's face went blank. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The man who had walked into that courtroom acting untouchable now faced the one thing he feared most, a lifetime behind bars with no way out. If you think fear and pride can destroy even the strongest people, drop a comment below. Hit that like button if you believe choices have consequences, no matter how famous you are, because Aaron's story was far from over. Aaron Hernandez entered prison in 2015 at the Souza Baranowski Correctional Center in Shirley, Massachusetts. The man who once had millions of dollars, adoring fans, and a future in the NFL was now confined to a cell. And just like he told his friends, He couldn't handle it. His mental state started falling apart almost immediately. He wrote letters to people on the outside describing how isolated he felt. Other inmates and guards noticed he was jumpy, anxious, always looking over his shoulder. The paranoia that had followed him his entire life got worse. He stopped trusting anyone he barely ate. Sleep became impossible. Then, in 2017, Aaron faced another trial. This time it was for a 2012 double homicide in Boston. Prosecutors said he shot and killed two men, Daniel Diabro and Safiro Furtado, in a drive-by shooting outside a nightclub. The case went to trial in February 2017, and on April 14th, the jury found him not guilty. Aaron had won. For a brief moment, it looked like maybe things were turning around, but it didn't matter. He was still serving life without parole for killing Odin Lloyd. Winning that trial changed nothing. 5 days later, on April 19th, 2017, guards found Aaron unresponsive in his cell. He had used bed sheets to hang himself. He was 27 years old. Next to his body, investigators found 3 handwritten notes, one to his fiancée, one to his daughter, and one to his lawyer. A Bible sat open nearby. On his forehead, Aaron had written John 3:16 in red marker, a Bible verse about eternal life and salvation. The man who smiled in court, who acted like nothing could break him, had chosen the one escape he thought he could control. He feared prison more than death, and in the end, fear won. After Aaron's death, his family donated his brain to Boston University for research. What they found shocked the medical community. Aaron had stage 3 chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE. It's a degenerative brain disease caused by repeated head trauma, and it's common in football players who take hits to the head year after year. But Aaron's case was different. He had the most severe CTE doctors had ever seen in someone his age. Most people don't reach stage 3 until their 60s or 70s. Aaron was only 27. CTE affects decision-making, impulse control, memory, and mood. It can make people aggressive, paranoid, and emotionally unstable. The findings raised questions nobody could fully answer. Was Aaron's violence caused by the damage to his brain, or was it the trauma he carried from childhood, the abuse, the molestation, losing his father, his mother's betrayal? Or was it simply the choices he made, the people he surrounded himself with, and the lifestyle he refused to leave behind? Aaron's family filed lawsuits against the NFL and the New England Patriots, claiming they were responsible for the brain damage that contributed to his violent behavior and eventual death. Both lawsuits were dismissed in 2019. The courts ruled there wasn't enough evidence to prove the league or the team were directly responsible for what Aaron did. Today, Aaron Hernandez's name is a warning he had everything: talent, money, a family, a future that most people only dream about. But fear, pride, and pain he never dealt with ate him alive from the inside. He couldn't escape his past. He couldn't control his anger. And when the consequences finally caught up with him, he couldn't face them. His story isn't just about football or fame. It's about what happens when trauma goes untreated, when violence becomes the answer, and when someone would rather choose death than live with the choices they made. Aaron Hernandez's story teaches us something critical. Fear and pride will destroy you if you don't deal with them. Trauma doesn't give anyone permission to hurt others, but when pain goes untreated, it rips lives apart. Not just the victims, but the person carrying it too. Aaron had fame, money, and talent that most people will never touch. But none of that mattered because he never learned accountability. He never got help. He never stopped running from his past. And that brings us to the question nobody can fully answer. Was Aaron's death really his choice, or was something else going on in that prison cell? Some people believe he couldn't live with what he'd done. Others think the brain damage made the decision for him. And then there are those who wonder if someone wanted him silenced for good. But one thing is clear: Odin Lloyd deserved better. If you think his memory deserves justice and respect, leave a comment below. Share this story. Let people know that every life matters, not just the famous ones.